Most estate plans we review, which are drafted by other law firms, provide for outright distributions to the next generation without any guidelines or suggestions on how the wealth should be used. Clients should have choices to share their wealth based upon their values and not just because someone attains a certain age. For example, careful consideration should be given to outright lump sum distributions to children or grandchildren from 18 to 25. A majority of people receiving distributions during this period of their life end up spending the money on parties, fast cars, and other undesirable activity. A recent national survey indicated that over 70% of the wealth received without restriction in their 20s results in very little wealth being accumulated upon reaching the age of 30. Traditional methods of distributions in the estate planning industry try to attack these outright distributions by creating periodic lump sum distributions at the ages of 25, 30, and 35, when children and grandchildren are seemingly more mature. However, if you look at this time period, for most people, it is really the age of ambition, where they work hard to develop their career and further their professional aspirations. Young adults are really planting the seeds for a lifetime of accomplishment. Smothering them with wealth during this time period may actually fundamentally change the course of their adulthood. Careful consideration should be given to any sort of distributions during this period of time, which are not tied to specific purposes which further your core values, and avoid the risk of smothering the ambition of your children and grandchildren. Some may say, well, perhaps we should distribute from ages 35 to 45 to avoid this. These time frames are not necessarily good for lump sum distributions either. During this period of a person's life, they are keeping up with the Joneses, which means they accumulate assets or toys which might become liabilities in the future. For example, homes that are too big, expensive boats, assets that depreciate in value that come with insurance costs, repair costs, storage costs, property taxes. These concerns drive the values-based estate planning movement. At its core, we are trying to enhance the lives of our loved ones rather than fundamentally changing who they are. By giving them lump sum distributions without any sort of guidance, there's a risk that we are not furthering the values that are core to who you are. This is the biggest gift that you will likely ever give to your children or grandchildren. Shouldn't you try to match up your values with the gifts that you are giving? In reality, what we're trying to do is simulate what you would do to help the next generation if you were alive and able to distribute the money directly. Many of our clients value the institution of marriage, for instance. Perhaps we have distributions where they can spend thousands of dollars to celebrate the decision to get married, irrespective of whether we are present. Education is also a very strong core value for many of our clients. Should we consider providing distributions for higher education for your children or grandchildren? Maybe you want to allow for distributions for your grandchildren to go to college so that it's not as much of a burden on your children to have to fund that. If you were alive and financially able, you may be willing to help your children buy or start a business. If you want to encourage the purchasing of a business, we can create a method for distributing the down payment for the purchase of the business. This method that we've created provides for a mechanism by which you would approve of the business being purchased in the same way as if you were present to help them. Maybe you are concerned about your children's family having adequate health care. You can provide for a method for your children to have access to health care through distributions from their trust. Home ownership is another value that is important to many of our clients, and they want to assist their children in procuring a house. But should we just allow them to have unfettered access to the funds if it's for a house? Ordinarily, our clients create a formula so that our children otherwise qualify for the purchase of the house without assistance from the parents. That way we are enhancing their opportunity to have access to a house rather than just simply giving them the money outright and perhaps putting them in a position where they're house poor. Maybe you want your children or your grandchildren to purchase a new car every few years from distributions from the trust. We can provide for that. Perhaps you want to encourage a stay-at-home parent or even homeschooling for your grandchildren. If these are important values that you possess, we can create a method for distributing wage replacement to the stay-at-home parent so that your children do not have to make a significant financial concession in order to provide these robust alternatives to your grandchildren. Maybe you want to encourage travel and want to provide a trip to remote places in the world every few years. Maybe it's sports that's an important core value in your family. We can create a method for allowing for distributions for golf course memberships, hunting, season tickets to your favorite team. Perhaps you want to do the same thing for musical endeavors. We can provide for distributions for lessons or the procurement of musical equipment. You can even create a trust that helps support your pet or even provides access to your children and grandchildren to have pets without having a financial burden. For instance, you may want them to benefit from having horses. We see a recurring theme of working hard as a core value of our wealthy clients. You can create a salary matching or bonus program that encourages your children to work hard. For example, you could match their annual income with a 10% distribution match, maybe only after they attain a certain wage first to encourage them to work hard even more. Perhaps promoting family unity is very important to you. You could allow for distributions to promote holiday celebrations among your family. The cost of travel or vacation surrounding the holiday for your children and grandchildren could also be distributed from their trust. Charitable contributions are oftentimes important to clients if they want to facilitate a method for the next generation to be similarly charitable. We can have a matching program where distributions are made to a church or another nonprofit organization based upon the tithing of their children or perhaps based upon distributions received from the children. Family cabins are an important part of the lives of many Minnesotans. Maybe you allow for a distribution to help them purchase that family cabin that you would like them to enjoy. We will oftentimes take the remaining portion of the funds not used during their life, not used during the triggers that we discussed above, and structure it as a retirement allowance for your children so that they can have a monthly income upon reaching a certain age. It's kind of like a pension, but it's not regulated by the government. Our job in this values-based estate planning model is to understand what core values are important to you and to try to find a way to yield that for the next generation. During your lifetime, it is unlikely that you've provided significant financial gifts to your children without there being some purpose furthered or some opportunity that you wanted to help enhance. Why after our lifetime, when we're giving them the biggest gift that we will ever give them, would we give it to them without furthering our values? I had a client one time explain to me that he did not want his client to receive distributions without undergoing drug testing. He very succinctly stated that he did not want his child to be in a worse condition due to his wealth by being further entrenched in addictive behavior, which was enabled by his wealth. That particular client's child had previously demonstrated addictive behavior, and it was from genuine affection and love that he created this drug testing requirement. The way in which we create the trust ensures that creditors of your children and grandchildren can't attack your wealth, nor will they be required to defend the wealth against those creditors, even ex-spouses. The purpose of this video is to help explain how you can use your wealth to enhance the lives of your children and grandchildren rather than fundamentally changing them with lump sum distributions.